Keep on tells.
Your creative work might look a little different this year, but For Culture grants can still help you put your ideas in motion and share them with King County. Check this out. For Culture is now offering grants in 3 disciplines: arts, heritage, and historic preservation. Apply by April 28th. For more information, go to forculture.org. Brought to you by For Culture. As a cultural funding agency for King County, For Culture works to make our region vibrant.
Welcome to the Fitness Corner. I'm your host, Mark Bryant, and you're going to get a whole total body workout on my show, starting off with a warm-up, aerobics, strength training, cool down, and stretching every Friday from 11:30 to 12 right here on Rainier Avenue Radio.
Lock in fresh juice with the newest hip-hop and R&B.
Every Wednesday night from 9 to 11 p.m.
on Rainier Avenue Radio.
You know we got the dopest artists rocking with us every single week. It's myself, D-Money.
Taylor Hart.
And Pint Size Patron, which is fresh juice every Wednesday. It's Trilltopia.
Wash your hands, don't touch your face, wipe things down, clean up your space. When you cough and sneeze, do responsibly. If you feel you're getting ill, isolate at home and chill. No, you're not alone. Please pick up your phone and call 206-477-3977. King County 206-477-3977. Public Health 206-477-3977. King County 206-477-3977. Public Health Community Radio Station will provide you with more information. Say Rainier Avenue Radio. Your community radio station will provide you with more information. Rainier Avenue Radio.
You're listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Check us out on social media. Facebook and Instagram, Rainier Avenue Radio.world, and on Twitter at Rainier Ave Radio.
Oh, I'm sorry. I actually started the show on mute. My apologies. I actually went through a lot of my introductory remarks on mute. So that means that I'm a little bit tired, but it is the special day of Earth Day. And I wanted to say, now that I'm not on mute, a welcome to our special guest today, but also a shout out to the team at Rainier Avenue Radio, because you have been so gracious and so generous, really, with your time and your support to us at Front and Centered, and also to the Social Justice Film Institute. I want to before we actually get started in our conversation today about how environmental justice is racial justice, I wanted to acknowledge the fact that we had a wonderful and very, very special guest today, the new executive director of the George Floyd Memorial Foundation, Jakari Harris, a wonderful and inspirational young man who took time out of his busy day, an incredibly busy day, an incredibly monumental week, to share with us just a little bit of what he was thinking as he, together with the team and the family of the George Floyd Foundation, really think about what does justice look like across the movements. And we are looking forward to working with him and the team of the George Floyd Memorial Foundation to see how it is that we can just be a partner, one of many that are necessary to actually bring about the kind of change that we all need to work towards together. So again, my name is Aurora Martin. This is the 3-day series of Earth Deserves More Than a Day. And we want to take a moment to express how much we lift our hearts as well to George Floyd, and that today's discussion with our guests is going to take us to a local set of conversations about how it is that racial justice is about environmental justice. Before I get into the questions, however, I wanted to actually go around with a quick set of introductions. And I know that we have got a team of people, Pastor Greg and Milando Redeemer, as well as Sedonia and Rebecca and Skip. So why don't we go around kind of a popcorn style introduction? Sedonia, you were the first person you're the last person that I spoke to yesterday. So why don't we start with you?
Hello, and thank you for inviting us here today. I'm with the Tacoma Ministerial Alliance, and I have provided staff support over the last 2 years, and a member of a number of community organizations that are concerned and are also a part of the environmental movement to assure that racial minorities are not left out.
Great. Thank you, Sedonia. We can move on to Milando Redeemer.
Hello, everyone. My name is Milando Redeemer. I serve the Associate Minister at Shiloh Baptist Church, Pastor Christopher. I'm here representing the two committees today, representing the Tacoma Ministerial Alliance, as well as the Tacoma NAACP. I had a third, Tacoma NAACP Youth Chapter. So I am going to be here today. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Milando. Good to hear your voice again. And what about Pastor Greg? I have not had the pleasure of meeting you yet, but am wonderful and super welcome to meet you here.
Thank you so much, Aurora. It's a privilege to be here and to be a part of this conversation, and I embrace this with mixed emotions. Unfortunately, I overlooked the wedding that I am supposed to be doing in about 30 minutes, 20 minutes from now. And but I have Rebecca and Dr. Skip, who will fill in and answer some of the questions that you might ask me. But but if there are questions within the next 10 minutes that could be presented to me, I would do my best to try to answer them. So once again, thank you so much, and thank you for the work that you're doing.
Well, thank you, Pastor Christopher. I want to take the opportunity then to be with you today and to hear some of your thoughts before you have to go on to do God's work. Actually, I know that's a lot of work. So, I would love to be able to ask you to talk a little bit about the idea of serving community members and how it has how it has been for Shiloh Baptist Church in the last year, whereby the three crises of our time of racial injustice, climate change, and the pandemic have all come together to just feel so overwhelming for the Black community especially. And how has that been for you as a leader in Shiloh Baptist Church?
Okay, thank you. The Shiloh Church has always been in the forefront and serving the community. The late Dr. E.S. Brazil kind of left his spirit in me to carry out some of the work that God had started with him, and so we're heavily involved in the community, and not just the community that the Shiloh Church is geographically located, but throughout Pierce County. And so you know, the climate change is a challenge that the Shiloh Church and the Tacoma Ministry Alliance have been fighting since the Tacoma aroma. And so I'm not sure you might not be familiar with that.
Oh no, I'm familiar with that aroma. The Tacoma aroma is great.
Yeah, we went around for almost decades, just inhaling all that pollution from the tie flats, and finally they got a jump on it, and now unfortunately they want their community back, and so gentrification is now forcing the Black and Brown community to relocate. So we've been challenging the powers to be in regards to climate change. We've been participating in some more positive, like-minded people in community gardens, and solar panels, and and just trying to be a part of the city vision for a cleaner Tacoma. And so we're at the table with the city of Tacoma with their newly climate action planning. And so we're excited about that. We feel like our voices will lend to the conversation that hopefully will lend to change. And when you talk about social justice, for the last 21 years, and I have been pastoring at the Shiloh Church for the last 21 years, 4 months and 22 days. We've been on the forefront with trying to bring about social equity. And so, we've done marches. We've gone to the courthouse. We've gone to Olympia. We've been in conversation with the governor. I mean, you name it. And we see the connection. When you talk about environmental justice and social justice, we see the connection. Most people don't see the connection because they're not actually living in that particular moment or that environment. And so, but we see that, and the pandemic that we're in, which is pretty much front and center at this time, at this junction. And so the Tacoma Ministry Alliance, where I have the privilege of serving as president, are leading out in getting persons the resources they need to get to where they need to get to in order to be to get vaccinated. And so we was given the opportunity by Dr. Chen to do just that, and we hosted 300 vaccines COVID vaccines at the Shiloh Church under the umbrella of the Tacoma Ministry Alliance, and it really went off well. We was able to get 299 persons vaccinated under Minister Milando Redeemer leadership. His ground crew actually went out in the community looking for persons who did not have internet, did not have transportation, and he would find those persons, communicate that to the data input supervisor, and then we went and got them well, actually what we did is we registered them, and then if they needed transportation, we went to their homes, picked them up, brought them to the Shiloh Church, rolled out the red carpet, and then took them back home. One couple said at that particular event, reminded me of a TV commercial. He said, I can't believe it. Somebody knocked on my door and said, "Hey, do you guys need a COVID vaccine shot?" And then they said they'll provide transportation. And he said, "Who does that?" so people in the community that care does that. So, so
you
I
said,
just wanted
knock,
to
knock,
say that.
who's there? God is with you.
Yeah.
That's what you said. Oh my gosh, that it's amazing to me, Pastor Christopher, what it is that Shiloh Baptist Church, together under the umbrella of the Tacoma Ministerial Alliance and other community partners, have been able to do, because what you have just described has been a situation where it takes everything and it takes everybody, and that there is no limit to the kind of justice and love that you all are actually expressing, and the fact that you see the relationship between the environmental context that we live in and the injustices that may seem insurmountable. But I think what has been such a pleasure for me to get to know, especially through Milando and now you and Sedonia, is that well, geez, I just feel like I got baptized here, and I'm going to go to your church to listen to your lectures there. But
you are welcome.
I'll be there. Sedonia knows. But it is such a pleasure to be working with you, because of the fact that you know that the relationship between environmental justice and what's going on today of racial injustice, and even with the verdict, the guilty verdict that was delivered today in the or this week in the George Floyd case, was a measure. It was a measure of accountability, but just the beginning of what is possible when we can imagine justice differently. And I thank you for your work and your leadership for imagining justice as an experience rather than just something that happens in a courtroom.
Thank you, Aurora, and we figured this thing out by the grace of God, that in order to really begin to change environmental justice, social justice, being able to confront pandemics and crisis, we have to be proactive, and so we have been strategically positioning ourselves to be behind these doors that are trying to come up with solutions, so that if those type of crises presents themselves, then we're not reacting, but we're already in a position to right off the bat begin to counter those different types of crisis, whether it's social justice, climate justice, or racial justice.
Well, we are here for you, and we are committed at front and centered to supporting the continued building up and strengthening of the Tacoma Ministerial Alliance infrastructure. I'm mindful of your time, Pastor Christopher, and I know, and so I thank you for gracing us with your presence and also supporting the rest of the team here to continue on with the conversation.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Milando, I know that you and I had a chance to talk last month or two, actually 2 months ago, when I wanted to do a leadership profile story about you, a young man who will be the up and coming new mayor of Tacoma. Okay, so I want you to talk a little bit about the work that you've done, both as a youth minister at Shiloh Baptist, but your work at Tacoma Ministerial Alliance, and also that story that you shared with me about how it is that you have been involved with civil rights since the time you were born, and also then have been involved in leading with labor organizing. And then you had a conversation with our community organizer, Samir, when it came to the idea of solar panels and environmental and climate justice. Could you share a little bit?
Sure. Well, first, let me just say thank you once again for highlighting me for the leader profile in February. I really appreciate that. And also for that little plug about being the future mayor of Tacoma. We need all the support as possible. So thank you so much. I have the honor of serving as this assistant youth pastor at Shiloh Baptist Church under the direction of Pastor Christopher. I also get to serve as a part of the Tacoma Ministerial Alliance. And then I get to serve as the third vice president of the Tacoma NAACP. And then I get to oversee as the director of the youth chapter of the Pierce County NAACP. And you asked a little bit about kind of my upbringing. I think one point you asked, what got me started in all of this, and it's all I can remember doing. By the grace of God, I was raised up in this. My late godfather, Judge Frank Burgess, who was the second African American federal judge in the Pacific Northwest, basically raised me up. And so I remember growing up and going to things like the Black Collective, being a part of the NAACP. My Uncle Jack, who was the first African American federal judge in Pacific Northwest, right? Being a part of that and having mentors like Mayor Harold Moss, the first African American mayor, city council member, mayor, county council member here in Tacoma and Pierce County. And people like Dr. Maxine Mims, who was one of my first teachers early on. So these were the leaders who were leading in the African-American community, and not just the African-American community, but Tacoma. And so this is what I've known. I've known service is really what it is. And being able to take the skills in which I've had to actually be able to help others. If I see something, do something. Speak up, join other organizations, other people, right? And then let me not forget my very own pastor, Pastor Christopher, right, who I get to work with now, and I get to watch him as he, works. You see, he's a busy person, and so it's in me. It's something that I've been able to do, and it's a privilege and it's an honor that I have the ability to be able to serve as I, when I can and how I can. And so, when we talk about some of the work that we've been doing with young people in the community, that's one of my passions, is to be able to I'm fairly young myself, but being able to take a little bit of what's been poured into me and poured into others, poured into the other young people, and bring up a generation of people who are willing to serve, a generation of people who's willing to look out beyond themselves and see a need and want to fix it. And so I've been able to do that with my work at Shiloh, my work, and also my work in the community with NAACP. Getting to oversee some of that work and really pouring into young people for them to understand that this thing isn't about me, myself, and I, but this is about all of us. And the only way that we can really see change is that we all come together. right? And you brought up the conversation, and all of this is going to tie in, but you brought up the conversation with me and Samir, and talking about solar panels and just environmental justice in general when it comes to African Americans. And I think this is a conversation you're referring to, but I had shared with him that, you know, for a lot of African Americans, environmental justice is not something that is on the forefront of our minds, because we are dealing with so many other injustices that are happening, right? We're worried about how we're going to feed our children. We're worried about, you know, working. We're worried about paying the bills. We're worried about, we're worried about whether our children or our husbands or just ourselves are going to be able to come or make it back home when we leave home, right? And so environmental justice oftentimes is not the forefront of our minds. But I think recognizing, right, as Dr. King says, that an injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And so if we're not having those environmental conversations, that we're actually missing a whole piece of justice, right? When we look at the fact that oftentimes more African Americans are struggling when it comes to asthma and allergies, right? Well, when you can connect that to the environment in which they live, when you are able to look at the low birthing rates of African American women and then connect that to the environment in which they live, right? When you can look at the health conditions, the general health conditions of African American or Black and brown people in general, BIPOC people, right? And the environment in which they live. And I love how Pastor Christopher said, right, we've been doing this work since the aroma of Tacoma, and now that they are starting to fix that up, they want their community back, right? So now, as we start to see the environment and we start to see the pollution change and Tacoma become a clean community, now we start to see this shift of gentrification, where the white people who once left this area and who condemned this area are now pushing Black and brown people out of this area and buying it up. Right. And so I think that's the conversation you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, I thank you for that, because I think that the way you described it then and the way you're describing it now just puts such a fine point on the intersectionality of our movements and the intersectionality of the demand for justice at different levels. I did want to make sure that I introduce properly as well and give a chance to, Skip as well as Rebecca. Did I miss somebody? Okay, so they may have actually gone to the same meeting that Pastor Christopher was on. So Sedonia, we have been talking actually quite a few times this week about the amazing work that you have been able to be a part of with the pop-up vaccination clinics, and give you some space and time to also talk about that effort and how, all of this that the Shiloh Baptist Church and Tacoma Ministerial Alliance is doing is meeting people where they're at. And it's not about, we only do this, and so we're going to serve you in this area, and so you have to go for your other issue over there at some other place. But instead, what Shiloh Baptist and what Tacoma Ministerial Alliance seems to have done here is to meet people where they're at and take on whatever it is that you can. So the beautiful story here, I think, is the beginning of an idea with regard to vaccination pop-ups. And I know, Melando, you had actually shared this back in February, where you were saying the vaccinations are now starting to be released, but we're not seeing any vaccination access or education out in our community. Why couldn't they come here to our church and our various network of churches? And so what made that happen, it seems, is that you all kind of said that this is where they need to act. You demanded it to actually be made available in partnership with your church. Sedonia, do you want to share a little bit about the effort?
She's on mute.
I think if we could unmute Sedonia, she'll be able to share her story. There we go.
Thank you. I think Orlando, as I said, had really talked a lot about that. But I want to also make sure that I put an emphasis on this has been the challenge of the Black community and communities of color. We've always had these major crises in our areas, and there are resources available, but not to us directly. And as we continue to think about justice, racial justice, and equality, and also looking at what is happening in the area of conservation, of having a healthy environment. They all interact, they all intersect. And what we want the community to know is that we're in the position as the Tacoma Ministerial Alliance to really accomplish a lot of these goals that have not been able to accomplish because of the relationship that people in our community have had with governmental agencies, healthcare, and social service agencies, and the police and all other organizations. And we are in the forefront of communicating to our communities what's actually happening and providing them with the infrastructure to communicate these issues, and also for us to work through a lot of them with those agencies. We've been very successful over the last 2 years of working with the health department, also with the Tacoma Housing Authority, Catholic Community Services, and some of those, especially lately, Tacoma Public Utilities.
Sedonia, I'm getting a note from our producer, and so we're gonna hold that thought because we have to go to a commercial break, and then we're gonna get you back on.
Okay.
Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Celebrating 4 years of broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in the interest of South Seattle and surrounding communities. Hey, it's Tony B, and yes, I'm excited to share with you that April 1st is our birthday. This one is our 4th of amplifying the diverse voices in our communities, broadcasting community events, providing award-winning instructional classes to youth and adults, supporting our music communities in all genres and forms, hosting critical conversations, and making sure that we are who you are. 2020 provided us with the opportunities to meet the needs of our communities. Rainier Avenue Radio is proud to have provided our communities with the most comprehensive coverage of how the coronavirus did and continues to impact our communities. And so, for our birthday, on behalf of our amazing staff, volunteers, and show hosts, to all of our contributors, supporters, listeners, and viewers, thank you. Thank you for your support and patience while we were trying to figure out this internet and broadcasting media thing 4 years ago. Thank you to our youth students who took our courses in interdisciplinaries like communication, journalism, multimedia, math and coding, adult digital literacy, social media analytics, beat making, film, photography, and of course, broadcast. Thank you for staying with us even when we made mistakes. You know that when we provide opportunities for you to share your voice, thoughts, issues, concerns, and talents, then we look at that as growing together. As the African proverb says, that is how we will go far. We have grown, and you've grown with us. We have over 80 shows hosted or produced by members of our communities. And all of this during a pandemic. But that is one reason why we do exist. As a true grassroots organization that started out broadcasting out of a study room in the Columbia City Library, we formed alliances with groups like the HCAACD, worked with city government, private developers, and a variety of arts organizations to promote sustainable art space, land acquisition, and ownership for arts organizations. I'm sure many were shocked when we leased 3 properties in the heart of Columbia City, providing our community members with business opportunities for a hair salon, barbershop, recording studio, rental hall, youth concert and celebration space, artist residency, and an art gallery, among the other multiple uses. We are continuing that growth as we move towards ownership of property in the Central District and in land acquisition in South Seattle's Columbia City to preserve the historical and cultural artistic integrity of our communities and ensure that independent voices continue to be heard. So for those of you who have found out about us recently, we thank you on our birthday for allowing us to broadcast our community-created content however and wherever you listen and watch. If you'd like to make a birthday donation to Rainier Avenue Radio, it would be much appreciated. Yes, times are tough, so any amount would be greatly appreciated. You will see the results. Here's how you can donate. You can go to our website at rainieravenueradio.world and go to the donate page. You can Venmo at Rainier Avenue Radio. You can send a check to Rainier Avenue Radio, P.O. Box 18774, Seattle, Washington, 98118. You can donate to Shunpike, which is our fiscal agent. Just indicate that your contribution is for Rainier Avenue Radio. Shunpike is the 501c3 nonprofit agency that provides independent art groups like ours in Washington State services, resources, and opportunities. Once again, happy birthday to us at Rainier Avenue Radio .world. We are your community radio station. We will continue to provide you with community-created content, broadcast live from our communities, and of course, we'll bring you high school sports like nobody else can. Join us in celebration. Rainier Avenue Radio .world.
All right, we are back. We are back with our segment on environmental justice is racial justice. Sedonia, I wanted to come back to what you were beginning to say about the story and the work that you have been involved in and the many different efforts that really intersect. Sedonia?
Yes, I was talking about really who are the leaders behind all of this, and we can't really say too much more than what Pastor Christopher has said, but also we need to emphasize the number of people or groups that are involved. We have over 20 churches here in the Tacoma and Pierce County area, and they're serving over thousands of people. In terms of a community organization, the churches have reached out to every area in the communities and brought people on board who need help, and also supported issues that relate to health, mental health, psychological issues, housing, food, clothing, and they've done that with very limited resources. And when the pandemic only emphasized and highlighted the work that we're doing, but also it highlighted the fact that we do not have the resources to really provide the comprehensive services that we provide to our communities. And without the help of other organizations, we would not be able to really extend our services any further. And what makes that so important is that these individuals or people that are involved with it, they are the trusted messengers of the community. The community is looking to the churches and have for years to provide direction, understanding, and support of the issues that we are facing. There's a lot of insecurity about governmental agencies and also governmental political agencies and so forth. And it was really challenging us at first to get people to sign up to be vaccinated because of the history that's in the past with people of color and so forth. And we were very successful in doing that and showing that we can do it with the help and the support of the other organizations that have been really working with us. I want to highlight one of the groups, and it's because they've done so much in the past. And I said, we were looking for monies and we were looking for funds, and we found that we had made commitments that we were going to do all of these things for the vaccine and getting people out in the community, and Orlando and his group, the NAACP, and a number of other groups. But we also looked to the Tacoma Housing Authority, who had provided us information and resources. And when we said that, I said, well, how are we going to do this? And I said, we need a miracle, Pastor Christopher. And he said, let's call Front and Center. Okay, we called you, and you guys showed up and showed out, because we were very successful with that and have been successful with a lot of efforts. What our challenge is today, and what it continues to be, is to show the rest of these foundations and organizations that these grassroots organizations, although They're not large and they don't have big budgets. We may be small, but we're mighty, and we can accomplish a lot with the support of these foundations and other community organizations that are willing to come in and see that the only way we're going to make a difference is working together and also utilizing the resources at the grassroots so people that trust they're going to come to the churches, they're going to come to our community organization, and perhaps we can rebuild that trust with other organizations that our community does not recognize as being supportive of their issues or our needs.
Sedonia, should I call you Governor Young? Okay.
No,
I think Sedonia just did her kind of soapbox political speech right here. Now I am now looking forward as well to hearing from the wise words of Rebecca and Skip. Rebecca, why don't you come on into the conversation? And I think that you're in the virtual backstage. So I welcome you and both Skip to actually join in this conversation about how you are seeing racial justice is environmental justice and how can we support?
So, hi, thank you. Welcome. I appreciate you just inviting us to the conversation. I just want to echo all the great words that Pastor Christopher and Sedonia and Melando have brought up in regards to not only the intersection of racial justice and environmental justice, but about us being the place where the community comes to as trusted messengers. I think that those were good points to bring up. Melando mentioned infant birth rates. Melando, thank you for my glasses comment. Melando also mentioned about us living in the spaces. In 2019, I just want to mention, in 2019, there was a report that came out in the National Academy of Sciences that found that Black and Hispanic communities in the U.S. are exposed to far more air pollution than they produce through actions like driving and using electricity. Black and brown communities are the communities that we help. It's not just Black and brown communities, but those are the communities that look like us. Those are the communities that make up our congregation. And those are the communities that look to us as trusted messengers. I absolutely see the environmental and racial, social justice issues intersecting on many levels. We cannot have one, to kind of again refer back to our teammate here, we cannot have one without the other, address one without addressing the other, because they're affecting, it does affect us. With the Tacoma Ministerial Alliance, we have a broad spectrum of programs. Our programs reach everybody, and every issue, almost not every issue, but many issues, from housing to homeless to food, feeding, and people that can't, to electricity, to education. We have a scholarship program, and these are the things that we continue because we try to take a holistic approach and work on the community as a whole.
I love that. And I love your glasses, but I love what you just said even more, Rebecca. And before I go on to react about how much I love what you all do, I want to make sure we include Skip Rowland here as well to make and share any comments that you may have about the work that you are doing.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. My role is pretty simple. It relates to the business development initiatives and relationships necessary to form and sustain over time the TMA. And my policy on planetary justice is that you cannot separate the human being from the planet. They're one and the same.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. And I want to be able to, I know that we just have a little bit of time left, but I think Daniel knows that I end up having to go and riff, but I'm going to try and contain myself because I'm very excited about this conversation. But I did want to say that I am just astounded by the fact that in this pandemic year, so many of our community groups, grassroots groups to informal, unincorporated nonprofit groups to even, far, more established statewide groups, in this particular moment, in the last 15 months, we have seen that they have had to pivot, not only to try and fulfill their mission, but they have met people where they're at. And the story of what you all share of how Tacoma Ministerial Alliance and Shiloh Baptist Church have actually taken a holistic approach to say you need food, you need personal protective equipment, you need education on vaccination, all of this, you need spiritual resilience. We will be here for you. And I think this is the message that we want to be able to make space and time for. And that is that for me, as part of the Front and Center team, what Tacoma Ministerial Alliance represents is the network of trusted messengers. And the fact that the network of trusted messengers needs more than just a grant here and there, but that it needs to be truly resourced. The last segment of just before our segment here was on resourcing the movement. How do we actually resource the intersectional movements that need to come together between, let's say, environmental justice and racial justice? We need to actually come together and be invested in. And so that's my goal, anyway, at Front and Centered, is to support this network of the Tacoma Ministerial Alliance and the 20 churches there that are meeting people where they're at to provide whatever is needed, and to also coordinate with the housing authorities and the public health departments and the community development programs as well. So we're committing to want to make sure that Sedonia, I know that you had said that we get to come to the party when the solar panels get installed, but we want to make sure that not just Shiloh Baptist gets those solar panels, but that we will work as much as we can and as hard as we can to ensure that the other 19 if they want. The other 19 churches also have an opportunity to get solar panels and then some on their churches as well. So I hope that this is just the beginning of an opportunity to really dig deep and partner with the Tacoma Ministerial Alliance to actually invest in the infrastructure that you all are doing. In our last part of the conversation, I want to make sure that I make time to ask you all questions about how it is that people can support your efforts, and or if you want to identify some of the top issues right now in this moment, what are the top issues that you feel you want to identify for people? And who would like to start?
I can take that.
Okay.
So the top issues for Tacoma Ministerial Alliance is expansion. The community, we have really dug into the community, and our programs are growing larger and larger. And so right now we are working on identifying and trying to figure out how we can hire staff in order to grow. We've listened to the community and seen what they need, and more people are coming to us through these programs. And we have wonderful partnerships, not only with Front and Centered, but Catholic Community Services and a bunch of others, and they have definitely stepped up to the plate. We run off of the volunteer services of many pastors of the churches that make up the membership, and people of the congregation. And we are going to the point where we need to put in the structure and the foundation to really expand and serve the people who continue to look to us as leaders.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rebecca. Are there others?
Yes, I'd like to reiterate what Rebecca has said because I think that's one of the most exciting things that reason why I'm a part of Tacoma Ministerial Alliance. These individuals and churches and communities are dedicated to the health and welfare of the people we serve here. And they do outstanding work. And to get your support has been, just so wonderful. And you highlighting what is happening and realizing that we could do even more and provide the kinds of support, education, quality health care, and so forth with the support of these other organizations. So thank you very much.
You are so welcome, Sedonia. Milando, do you want to give your stump speech? Your vision.
Well, I'm going to add a little bit to this, and then sure. I want to add to in other ways in which people can give. I get to serve and really work with the younger side of the TMA, which is in partnership with the Tacoma NAACP Youth Chapter. So that's another way in which we can support, because our young people are up and coming leaders. They're doing a lot of the same work, and our partners. And in order for them to do things, right, you can do a lot of things with no money, but you can do a lot of great things with a lot of money. So that's another way in which, and thinking about ways that we can support not only the Tacoma Ministerial Alliance, but some of the young people who are doing the groundwork. How do we invest in them? And so the Tacoma NAACP Youth, who is kind of that other side of that. So as my stump speech. I don't have one. You're hitting me off, but you talk about the vision. What I really see is a few things. One, for the Tacoma Ministerial Alliance, I see us being large enough to not only do what we're doing, but expand what we're doing, and really, hopefully, one day become one of the leading voices, leading organizations here in not only Pierce County, but Washington State when it comes to environmental justice, when it comes to social justice, when it comes to racial justice, economic justice, and things like that. My future for the community is that we are able to see the intersectionality when it comes to the issues of racial justice and economic justice and environmental justice. Recognizing that we cannot survive if we only focus on one thing, right? Because, and I always, this is one of my favorite quotes of Dr. King, because it just is a constant reminder that, right, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere, right? And so until we can come together and recognize that we are hurting in all of these areas, then we're not going to be able to heal in all of these areas. And so I think front and center for the work that you guys are doing, for always coming through and supporting Tacoma Ministerial Alliance, supporting Shiloh and some of the other 20 churches that are in the Tacoma Pierce County. Thank you for doing the work that you guys are doing. We're missing Samir right now, how many of us were introduced to front and center, but he's doing his own work, and so I'm looking forward to building that relationship with you, Aurora.
I'm looking forward to it too. You may end up calling me Samora or something. There's some combination of Samira and Aurora. Skip Rowland, do you want to provide some closing words as well?
Just that I'm really excited about being a part of this process. I believe you made a statement about a network of trusted messengers, and being an opportunity to participate in resourcing this movement. It is a movement, and there's a necessary connection there between the ecclesiastical message and the desire to protect the planet. They're one and the same. And good men and women of faith, it's time for the community to get behind and invest in their efforts and invest in the the good reputation and name that they've built, and through those investments, allow this organization to move forward with its work. Thank you.
Thank you. And just in the last few minutes of this particular session, I wanted to say thank you to all of you for actually letting Front and Centered walk with you. And although as I've spoken to Sedonia and also Milando in other conversations, and then fast forward to this particular segment to get to know Rebecca and Skip as well, you all are doing the work. You all are doing the work of transformation. And so Front and Centered is just, I think, honored to really be allowed to walk with organizations and networks of trusted messengers like you, because you all are the leaders who are inspiring change, who are delivering justice. And to me, as we think about this particular week where the verdict in George Floyd's case came out, as well as Earth Day, and as well as the fact that we're still in many ways in quarantine because of this pandemic, I think about the how Dr. King and many other leaders had imagined justice differently, and how justice and love is one of my favorite quotes from Dr. King, had something to do with the fact that love and justice must mirror each other. And I feel that that is what the work of Tacoma Ministerial Alliance and the 20 trusted messengers of churches are doing there in Tacoma. And that is the kind of thing that we need more of. And so we are honored to be working with all of you. We are committed to actually supporting the growth of this network and resourcing the strengthening of your infrastructure, and we'll do everything that we can to make sure that it is beyond the pop-ups, but actually, much more institutionalized. And so there's lots of discussions I know that we're going to have, but just know that that is our promise to you, because I've made it now on the air, so come after me.
Please believe we will be there.
Okay. With my children right behind me. But in the last 2 minutes, I'm going to let all of you have the last word. On this Earth Day of 2021, in this special week of a verdict of guilty, a measure of justice and accountability, what is a word or two that you want to leave our listeners with? And I'm going to start with the way the video is presenting to me. Sedonia, what is a word or two?
Keep the faith.
One more time.
Keep the faith.
Keep the faith. Yes, Milando.
Yeah, I want to say operate in love. And I'm going to put a plug in Hugh. I'm sorry, I'm a preacher. That since I'm doing the groundwork for the vaccination pop-up site, that I would be remiss to say that we are having another pop-up site on Saturday, May 8th at 12 o'clock at the Church of the Living God under Bishop White, one of the Tacoma Ministerial Alliance churches. So if there's anyone listening who needs to get the vaccination, we can register them.
Okay, great. And in the last 50 seconds, Rebecca and Skip, what's a word that you want to end with?
Onward.
Onward.
Seize the time.
Seize the time, onward, love, and keep the faith. Look to the Tacoma Ministerial Alliance on their website on ways that you can help and ways that you can donate, because you can be sure that I'll be there too.
So,
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Take care.
Bye now.
Bye.